she's just a wonderful character. You know, I think that she represents, I think, a certain kind of female empowerment that we need in films. You know, it's an empowerment of her internal psychological and spiritual character, not just her physical strength. And yes, she's remarkably strong for her size. She's also a character that people underestimate. They always underestimate her. She even underestimates herself. You know, one of the things she says at some point early in the film is, "I'm just an insignificant girl. They threw me away with the rest of the garbage," because she's literally found, literally physically found in a garbage heap. But it's very easy to underestimate a little pipsqueak, you know, 4'7" or whatever she is, young teenage girl, until she goes into action, until she transforms into, she doesn't physically transform, but she mentally transforms into some version of herself that clearly she was in the past. He's been like a kid in a candy shop with this movie. He loves the process, he loves the performance capture, he loves the design elements, you know, and so he was always very, very respectful of what I had written and of the world that Koshiro had created. But he's also not afraid to make it his own, you know, and I wanted to give him as much space as he needed creatively, and I was emphatic about that from the beginning. So we fell into this really good working relationship, because we'd been friends for 20 years, but we'd never really worked together. And it turns out that he's like insanely collaborative. He really likes the camaraderie of working with other creative people. WETA does the best facial animation, CG animation, the most human, the most alive, the most emotional, and the most real of anybody out there. Some of the other, you know, houses are trying to catch up now, but WETA's been the leader in this for a long time. It's why we went with them on Avatar. They broke ground with the Gollum character in The Lord of the Rings, with King Kong, and then with all of the Avatar characters. They really just for years have held the lead in this area. And so I knew that Alita had to be done with them in order to create the reality in her face, because like any movie where your main character is actually done through CG, and of course it's performance capture, so there's an actor, and you know, Rosa Salazar is fantastic. I mean, she is our greatest asset, I think, on this movie. But it's all about this. If you can make the audience believe that that character is real in a tight close-up, and frankly, WETA are the only people that I trusted to be able to do that. It's pretty hard to quantify how big the reaction was that Robert and I both had to Rosa. I mean, she just came in the normal sort of process of casting, and she just started to emerge out in front of everybody else as an actor who put such heart, such emotion, and such vitality into every moment. You know, when you see 10 actors all read the same scene, and you look at them back to back, and then you see one who makes not just every line count, but every moment between the lines count, and is shifting and has these complex reactions, and is surprised and is earnest and heartfelt. I mean, I've never seen anything like it out of a young actor her age, and I think she's just phenomenal. I think she really is phenomenal. And Robert and I both believed in her right from the start, but it's one of those things where you kind of don't quite believe what you've got, and you've got to see other people. So we continued to see other actresses, and nobody came close. And so then we started reading some of our potential Hugos with Rosa, and she was so giving, just off camera. She drew out the best out of these young actors, and that allowed us to find a great Hugo, you know. I think that was the smartest thing that we did, was to really spend time on that process, because the love story is all about the chemistry. It's about, do you care about these people? And it's going to be amazing seeing Rosa's spirit, her light, come through the Alita character. Well, in the world of the 26th century, the world of Alita Battle Angel, it's 300 years after a huge war has devastated the planet, and there's been a plague weapon that's been used, and only a tiny, tiny percentage of humanity survived, and all the survivors streamed to the one remaining sky city that existed. The apex of civilization was represented by these sky cities. So people streamed from all over the world. Somehow they managed to get there, and they formed a giant refugee camp in the shadow of this sky city that floats, a mile or so above them in the sky. And they could never get there because they had severed the connection to the ground, from Zalem to the ground. As a result of the plague, they had isolated themselves. So even though everybody gathered there was no relief from it other than they had each other. So they created a city basically out of nothing, and now we're 300 years later, and it's a thriving place. It's got a lot of energy, but it's a very dangerous place. I like Alita because she's absolutely fearless. And it's actually interesting writing a character that has no fear. She has no fear. If her motto, her kind of life motto is, I will not stand by in the presence of evil. She can't not do something when she's confronted with an injustice. She will do something. It's just who she is. And she's absolutely unafraid. It doesn't matter how big the opponent is or how powerful or how menacing. She just goes right at it. Now, that's a hard character to write because you have to find the vulnerability. Well, her vulnerability is all about the people that she loves. She will never fear for herself, but she will fear for them. And then, and only then, is she afraid, or is she stressed by something that might happen. So it's all about the bonds that she forms after she awakens in her new body, and how she fights for the people that she loves, and then, the betrayals and the things that she learns about kind of the darker side of human nature.